A Plaguelands Media production.
Hey everyone, this is Hugh from Plaguelands Media bringing you another book review slash just going through a whole fucking comic book. This time I'm looking at Superman Doomed. This was a huge crossover event through a lot of the Superman comics in the later part of the New 52 series, which I will talk about as I get into the video. Now, I am a Superman fan. However, I'm not as well versed in the character and the villains and whatnot as I might be in something like the X-Men or Batman or something along those lines. There are going to be a ton of fucking spoilers, so if you don't want the story spoiled, just go and watch one of my other videos. They're all fucking awesome. But let's just get straight into it. Here's the next episode off. Hey everyone, so this is Superman Doomed. Now, a few things before I get started. Number one, I apologize for my voice. It's still a little bit croaky. Just kind of deal with it. I've got my medicine right here in the form of some Jim Beam and cola. Oh, sweet liquor eases the pain. Now, before I get started, you might notice that this is part of the New 52 line. Some of you might not know what that was. The New 52 was DC's attempt at kind of rebooting the DC universe to get new readers in a little bit. It began with what was known as the Flashpoint Paradox, where the Flash woke up, he didn't have any powers, he had to get to the bottom of it. And one of his major villains, the Reverse Flash, Eobard Thawne, had gone back in time and kind of changed the timeline. So when the Flash put it back together, it became what's known as the New 52 universe. Now, a lot of people didn't like the Flashpoint Paradox story. I thought it was really cool. It gave us a new take on Batman in the form of Thomas Wayne, Batman's father, and instead of Bruce's parents being killed in the alley, it was Martha Wayne and Bruce that were killed, and Thomas Wayne becomes this darker, more violent Batman. It gave us a new kind of take on heroes and villains and all that kind of cool stuff, and I really enjoyed it. And rather controversially, I absolutely fucking loved the New 52, in as much as I had every single New 52 graphic novel before they reset it with DC Rebirth. I no longer have a lot of those titles. I just kept the main ones that I thoroughly enjoyed, like some of the Batman ones and things like that. But I did keep Superman Doomed. Now, the second thing I want to talk about, well, technically the third thing, but you know, who the fuck's counting? Doomed. And you have an image here of what looks like Doomsday. Is this going to be a Doomsday story? Yes and no. Some of you are going, who the fuck is Doomsday? Those of you are the people that have been living under a rock, because Doomsday was the creature that literally killed Superman, first introduced in I want to say 1992 in the Death of Superman storyline. Subsequently, he has been kind of resurrected and brought back. The Death of Superman and the Return of Superman storyline, I will actually be referencing a little when I talk about this story. But for those of you that don't know, this is the Death of Superman, or the Death and Return of Superman omnibus. As you can see, it's absolutely monstrous. And let's find the famous picture here of Lois Lane cradling Superman's body. I remember buying that comic when it came out in the stores. And if you want me to do a review of this storyline, just let me know in the comments below. Quite happy to do it. Absolutely love it. So, with that said, let me just put this beast to one side because this book is huge and it's hogging up my table space. Let's dive straight into Superman Doomed. Now, this is, it was a crossover event from a lot of the Superman titles. They've grouped them together in kind of mini story arcs, which is kind of cool. Now, what I will try and do is explain some of the characters and the changes as best as I can, but I am by no means an expert on a lot of these characters and when they appeared and things like that, so I am probably going to get some things wrong. Well, I am a Superman fan. I wasn't a Superman comic book fan until kind of much, much later. I thought the character was a little bit silly when I was growing up, so I kind of gravitated towards other comic book characters, but there you go. All right. So let's just get straight in to Superman Doomed. We have a fantastic image of Doomsday there. Superman fighting Doomsday. So we start with Prelude. We have Doomsday in the Arctic, and he is basically just being Doomsday. He's a killing machine. The origin of Doomsday, as far as I can remember it, like he was created and by I believe, a Kryptonian, and the Kryptonian would send him down on a planet, and he would die, and then the Kryptonian would keep bringing him back, immune to what killed him, and this kind of cycle turned him into this kind of crazed killing machine. He goes underwater, basically takes out a whole lot of sea life. The submarine that is searching for him finds him. He subsequently destroys it and then bursts out of the ocean in one of the best kind of splash pages I have seen. Okay, we move on to Prelude Part 2. Now here we meet a couple that are on their honeymoon. We get a bit of a backstory how they met. It was a whirlwind romance. They moved in with each other, decided they fucking hated each other, split up, ultimately came back together and got married. You can see the art here with the kind of the over-sexualized figures. So they're in this honeymoon resort in the Bahamas, and they're basically saying, I can't believe we're finally back together. This must be fate. It's not going to last. It is definitely not going to last. So we move to Smallville. Now, what's happened in Smallville? Those of you that don't know, Smallville was where Clark Kent was raised by the Kents. That's where his rocket ship crashed. I know me telling you this is probably redundant, but it just serves as a bit of context for the story itself. Smallville, of course, being one of the greatest TV shows ever made, and I will physically fight anyone who challenges me on that. I absolutely am a huge Smallville fan for a number of reasons. Number one, Tom Welling, one of the greatest portrayals of Clark Kent ever. Not so much Superman, because we didn't get to see him in the tights and cape until, I believe, the end of the finale of the last episode. But his father was played by one of the Dukes of Hazzard. Come on. His mother was played by the actress that actually played his childhood sweetheart, Lana Lang, in Superman 3. Awesome. and the relationship between Clark Kent and Lex Luthor, played by Michael Rosenbaum. In the TV show Smallville, one of the greatest dynamics ever of the Clark Kent, Lex Luthor relationship. Not so much the Superman Lex Luthor relationship, which kind of started out as cartoonish supervillainy, but the Clark Kent Lex Luthor relationship. I think they portrayed it so well up until around about season 5 or 6. Season 4 got a little bit silly, but they had to introduce the concept of magic into Smallville because that is one of Superman's greatest weaknesses. Going completely fucking off topic here, so I'm going to get back into the comic. So what's happened in Smallville? The inhabitants of Smallville have all fallen into comas. Senator Lane, Lana Lane, Lana Lane, Lois Lane, yeah. See, that's the problem with the Superman heroines, Lana Lane, Lois Lane. Senator Lane is Lois Lane's father. He used to be a general. He was one of the first people who distrusted Superman. And he's talking to Lana Lang in the New 52. She is like an electrical engineer who, her parents are in Smallville and they're in a coma, and she kind of wants in. She's helping the government. No one knows what is going on. Superman arrives. You can tell that his New 52 outfit, a little bit different, but still like the same traditional things. He scans people to try and see what's going on. Can't find anything, but Senator Lane tells him about these crop circles, which is a Kryptonian language that spells out doom. So as he goes to investigate, he is confronted by the Eradicator. Now, this is a vastly different Eradicator than what we know. The Eradicator, as far as I know, now I'm probably wrong on this, but my first experience reading about the Eradicator was after the death of Superman, when there were 4 Supermen that kind of stepped up to the mark. The Eradicator was one of them, and he turned out to be kind of like a sentient computer from the Fortress of Solitude. But this isn't it. This is a being that is manifested when a world is about to die. In this case, he manifests as Kryptonite because he was there when the planet Krypton was going to die. So Superman kind of gets this warning at the same time. Lois Lane is at the Daily Planet and finds out about what is kind of going on in Smallville. But we also have this giant kind of Leviathan thing known as the Collector. What the fuck is this? We'll find out later. At the Fortress of Solitude, Superman is kind of trying to work out what's going on. Now, in the New 52, Superman doesn't work for the Daily Planet anymore. He actually quit. He went off with Cat Grant to start kind of like an online news blog that became famous when they broke the story that Superman and Wonder Woman were dating. Now, you might be going, what the fuck? Superman and Wonder Woman were dating? But doesn't Superman date Lois Lane? No, not in the New 52. In the New 52, Superman was with Diana, or Wonder Woman, as most of you know her. Excuse me while I grab a coaster. And choose some ice. Clark Kent's gone missing. Cat Grant is a little pissed off, doesn't know what is going on. So Superman is kind of trying to work it all out. he has the bottle city of Kandor in his Fortress of Solitude. The bottle city of Kandor, for those of you who don't know what the fuck that is, was a city that was stolen by Brainiac, shrunk down and put into a bottle, and Superman kind of liberated it. It was a Kryptonian city, so it was a chance for him in the comic books. He could go in there and learn a little bit more about his Kryptonian heritage. And they've kind of been dormant until today. Superman contacts Cyborg, and Cyborg kind of lets him know about the resort in the Bahamas. So then we move on to Doomed. Now the military has come to the Bahamas to find it completely and utterly wrecked, and Doomsday going absolutely fucking berserk. I like the look of this Doomsday, not as much as the original one. The original Doomsday had a very simplistic but sinister look, in my opinion. This one is a little darker, and they can't really get close to it. Superman comes in, kind of rescues the pilots, is informed of what happens, and goes down there to find that everyone has kind of been incinerated. Everyone in the area is dead. He tries to get information from one of his friends, tries to find out kind of about Doomsday and what's been going on. At the same time, Lana Lang is trying to get into Smallville, but the military won't let her. Lois Lane comes along, tells Lana Lang to get in, and manages to somehow get past the guards at the quarantine site in Smallville. Clark goes to see Perry White at the Daily Planet. Even though he's not working there anymore, he just wants advice from Perry White. He sees Perry as somewhat of a father figure. And he's saying, look, what do I do in this instance? What he's really asking Perry White is, should I kill Doomsday? That's the kind of subtext here. And Perry White says, you'll do what you've got to do. And they part on really good terms. In the quarantine zone in Smallville, Lana Lang is looking for her parents, and she manages to find them. In the meantime, animals are going completely berserk because Doomsday is kind of on the loose. We get heroes kind of trying to stop him, finding out that they can't. Wonder Woman kind of comes in. They get into a knockout fight. Superman arrives, kind of gets everyone out of there, and starts to go toe-to-toe with Doomsday. Batman has kind of called the Justice League together. So we have Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, The Flash, trying to analyze how to stop Doomsday. Lex Luthor is patched in because at this point Lex Luthor is part of the Justice League. How the fuck did that happen? That happened at the end of the Forever Evil storyline, where the evil version of the Justice League from Earth 2 came to the main continuity Earth via Pandora's box. So you had Ultraman, Wonder Woman, Owlman instead of Batman, and so on and so forth. Fantastic storyline. But Lex Luthor effectively helped fight them, so that's why he's kind of an honorary member of the Justice League. You can see him in his kind of battle armor there. Batman kind of realizes what Superman has to do. Superman gives him a fail-safe device, so to speak, which is the key to the Fortress of Solitude. Wonder Woman, they share an embrace. Superman's like, don't worry about me, I'll be back. He flies down and gets into a huge fight with Doomsday, which ultimately results in Superman literally ripping Doomsday in half, killing him. But that is not the end of it. Because as he kills Doomsday, Doomsday releases spores which Superman is forced to inhale. These are spores that have been killing the things that Doomsday goes near. Superman doesn't want that, so he breathes them in, thinking that he can handle it. And as you can probably tell, he can't. Oh, that's good squishy. So we now come to the first kind of major story arc, Infected. So we see Superman kind of lying there. Wonder Woman comes down, as well as some of the other Justice League members. We have Cyborg, Martian Manhunter, and Lex Luthor. And they get Superman out of there so that they can find out what is going on with him. He basically hallucinates and imagines just beating the shit out of Lex Luthor and breaking his arms, realizes something is drastically wrong with him, and so he flies off to work out exactly what it is. At the same time, Batman kind of realizes that Superman's going to have to do this on his own. Here we have Crypto, Superman's superdog. Crypto kind of understands that maybe something is wrong with Superman. Superman takes out some poachers, just goes crazy and attacks their helicopter. They were kind of hunting from up above. He doesn't kill them, he does actually save them. Crypto kind of realizes that something is going on. At this point, we are introduced to Steel, John Henry Irons. Now, those of you that don't know who Steel is, Steel was one of the 4 characters to step up when Superman died. He is basically like an engineer / mechanic who creates a suit of armor for himself. You might remember the terrible movie from the 90s. The character first appeared in 1993. This iteration of him is pretty much the same, except he has a suit of kind of liquid metal now. So he is working with the Justice League. He is a good guy. And they come to him because he has, the government come to him because he has a lab that is kind of housing some supervillains. It's kind of like a prison, but he's actually trying to help them, trying to rehabilitate them. And the government show him what Superman kind of has become. And they want Steel to put Superman in his facility. Back in Smallville, Lana Lang realizes that whatever has put these people into a coma is no longer a threat, so she takes off her biohazard suit. Superman heads to the Fortress of Solitude, but Crypto is going a little bit crazy because Superman has these Doomsday spores in him. And so he goes off to Metropolis to be by himself. We can see the rather chilling image of the shadow of Doomsday over the top of him. Diana Prince, aka Wonder Woman, comes to Clark Kent's apartment. She has a key because she's his girlfriend. He's trashed the place and there is something not right about him. She kind of gets her Wonder Woman gear on because she can see that he has started to kind of form the Doomsday spores. She comes to visit Cat Grant at Catco. This is earlier in the day, so to speak, to find out if Clark has been acting out or done anything wrong. And Cat Grant says yes. He got really abusive with me, something he's never done before. So something's not right. Did you go and check his house? So we can see that Superman is now literally turning into Doomsday. Diana uses her lasso of truth. At this point, we find out that there is something wrong with Lois. You can see her eyes are glowing purple here. She gets a call from Diana. Diana kind of goes to meet her, and they talk about Clark because in the New 52, Lois is one of Clark's closest friends, while Diana Prince is Clark's girlfriend. Yummy. The drink, not the picture, but okay. Batman heads to Metropolis. He's talking to Alfred, where Wonder Woman jumps on the Batplane, and her and Batman talk, and she explains kind of what happened, what's kind of going on with Clark. So Batman decides we have to work out what's going on. They go to his apartment, but he's not there. And eventually Diana says to Clark, you can control this. And Clark manages to turn back into his actual self. Okay, Batman, realizing something is definitely wrong with Clark's blood, heads up to the Fortress of Solitude with Steel and Wonder Woman. Krypto is guarding it, but there is something wrong with him. Batman can kind of sense it, so they go in there. And they kind of realize that Doomsday was trapped in the Phantom Zone. Okay, what is the Phantom Zone? The Phantom Zone is a Kryptonian prison. It exists outside of time. You might remember it from the film Superman 2, where you had General Zod trapped in the Phantom Zone and he escapes. They did a really good version of it in Smallville. But the Phantom Zone is basically where Superman puts like Kryptonian criminals and whatnot. They leave Cyborg in the Fortress of Solitude and tell him we have to go into the Phantom Zone to find out how Doomsday escaped. Krypto goes in with them. And while they are in the Phantom Zone, they are attacked by Mongol. Mongol of Warworld. Now, Mongol is a Superman villain dating back to the early 1980s. I guess he's just a supremely strong dictator. And that's all. He's a little one-dimensional, but he's kind of a cool villain. And he's in the Phantom Zone with one of General Zod's henchmen. General Zod, of course, being one of the greatest Superman villains of all time. He was the main villain in Man of Steel. He was the main villain in Superman 2. He did appear in Smallville. Look, I keep coming back to Smallville. How fucking weird is that? So they kind of fight, and then we see this villain here, Ghost Soldier, Ghost Soldier was a villain who has been trying to take out Superman for a few months now, and he got put into the Phantom Zone, and he actually realizes that something is very, very wrong and wants to help, so he kind of switches sides. And they discover that there is a rift in the Phantom Zone that allowed Doomsday to escape. And they come face to face with the Phantom King. The Phantom King was the very first Kryptonian ever put in the Phantom Zone way back in the day by Superman's father, Jor-El. And he's been in there all of this time. And so they believe that he has something to do with this. So they try and get information out of him. They end up bringing out some of the villains out of the kind of Phantom Zone. Ghost Soldier joins them. Wonder Woman stops General Zod's henchman, throws him back in. But they do have the Phantom King tied up in the lasso of truth, so they drag him out of the Phantom Zone. All of this to find out how Doomsday escaped. Okay, so Superman has gone into voluntary lockdown. We have some of the Justice League members kind of wanting to study him. Lex Luthor wants to kill him, as per usual. Everyone tells Lex Luthor to shut up. And they discover that the closer people get to Superman, the more these deadly spores affect them. So they have to be really, really careful. In the meantime, we have this character who usually appears via holographic projection. She is in a bunker, like in the center of the earth. She used to be a Superman villain, but Superman ended up saving her life, so she is now a hero, one of the greatest minds on the planet, trying to help. Lois Lane comes to where they have Superman in custody. Superman asked for her. Diana, as Wonder Woman, is protecting the outside of the bunker. She has a few words with Lois Lane and then leads her inside. Batman tells everyone, let's give them some room. And Superman basically says to Lois Lane, listen, I can't be trusted anymore. And you have to tell the world this. You have to tell the world that I'm dangerous. At this point, Lois Lane kind of gets this vision. You can see that she's all green and she's got these three purple gems or whatever in her head. And that just screams the influence of Brainiac. Who the fuck is Brainiac, you might ask? Brainiac is one of Superman's greatest villains. His name initially stemmed from the combination of two words, brain and maniac. He was created in the 50s, I believe. Possibly 57 or 58. Not entirely sure on that. Don't quote me. I know it was the late 50s. His name has been kind of retconned to mean brain interactive construct. He initially started out as a Kryptonian computer that evolved. He was played fantastically well by James Masters in Smallville. James Masters, of course, being Spike in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and the narrator of the first Dresden Files novel, Stormfront, by Jim Butcher, where he does the greatest narration for a curmudgeonly wizard you have ever fucking heard. And Stormfront is one of my top 5 audiobooks if you just want to get into that kind of vibe. Wow, that was completely off fucking topic. Brainiac, what am I talking about? New 52 Brainiac, completely different origin story. We will get to that a little bit later. Lois Lane promises him that she will do it. Superman starts to kind of freak out a little bit because Lois Lane, under the influence of Brainiac, now has kind of telepathic powers, and she causes Superman to break free because he believes the Teen Titans are in trouble. They ask Cyborg to track him. Lois Lane is happy that Doomsday has kind of escaped. And here we find this iteration of the Teen Titans. We have Raven, Red Robin, Beast Boy, and not quite sure who she is, but Superman kind of comes down and helps them, and they all kind of freak out because Superman looks a lot different, and so he just leaves. A little jarring finding out that Lois Lane is under the influence of Brainiac, or so we're led to believe at this point. But still pretty cool. Okay, we now move on to Enemy of the State, Chapter 1. Clark is kind of having these nightmares while Lois Lane informs the world that Superman cannot be trusted as per his wishes. This pisses off Wonder Woman a bit. Wonder Woman calls the emergency contact for Clark, which happens to be Lana Lang, and they work out that if anything has happened to Clark, he set up a system whereby Diana and Lana Lang would connect with one another and work together. So we have Clark's childhood friend and sweetheart working with his now girlfriend. At this point, we have Metallo. Metallo being John Corbin. There have been a lot of iterations of Metallo, but ultimately, all you need to know is he was a man that was kind of turned into a cyborg with a kryptonite heart, and he blamed Superman, so his main goal is to take down Superman. In the New 52, Metallo is actually in love with Lois Lane. At this point, Steel finds Superman, and Superman tries to explain to him that you can't come near me, these spores are killing me. Steel disagrees, tells him we will find a way to help you, but ultimately they realize that the spores are deadly. Superman asks Steel, can you just protect the world? I'm getting out of here. When Sam Lane, the senator, sends a ship to take out Superman, Steel is like, can you guys just hold on a minute? We find out that in the ship is Atomic Skull. So what Senator Lane has actually done is freed the people, or freed some of the villains that were held captive in Steel's kind of laboratory. Atomic Skull is one of the newer Superman villains. He first appeared in 1991. At least the John Martin iteration of him first appeared in 1991. There was an earlier version, but this is not that. So Atomic Skull and Steel fight. Lex Luthor is trying to tell Superman, you've got to get away from the Earth. Superman is trying to fight it. Metallo comes along, and they realize that this whole thing has been a setup, and that Metallo has a bomb that is going to blanket the Earth in a layer of kryptonite particles, which will heavily weaken Superman. Now, the problem with this plan, as you are going to see, is that by weakening Superman, you are weakening his hold over this Doomsday virus. So Superman realizes that he has to leave the Earth. That was the plan all along. Not a very good one. Now we get a conversation like Superman has kind of created a Clark Kent persona and a Doomsday persona in his own mind, and he's using that to try and keep one or the other under control, but it is clearly not working, and the Doomsday persona is taking over. Diana goes to one of her Amazonian colleagues, a healer, and asks her, is it possible to get rid of the Doomsday spores out of Superman? The healer says, I will do whatever I can. But in actual fact, she is there to kill Super Doom as he is known. The fight is vicious. Diana kind of tries to stop it, but ultimately can't. So she flies Superman outside of Earth's atmosphere. However, unlike Superman, Diana can't exist for very long outside of the Earth. So she stays up in that kind of low atmosphere for as long as she can, until Superman reverts back to kind of his regular form, and she leaves him, and he says, I'll go. You just look after the Earth. At which point, he is attacked by Guy Gardner, Kara, his cousin, and fucking Madball with arms and legs. Don't know what the fuck that guy is. But they are Red Lanterns. Okay. What the fuck is a Red Lantern? I thought they were only Green Lanterns. Well, back in the day during the... you had the Green Lanterns, then Sinestro, who was one of the greatest Green Lanterns who trained Hal Jordan. He was banished from the Green Lantern Corps, and he created the Yellow Lanterns, who thrive on fear. And then it was discovered that there is actually a whole spectrum of lanterns that use different emotions. Green Lanterns is willpower. Yellow Lanterns is fear. The Orange Lantern, there is only one, a creature by the name of La Fleas, uses avarice. The Purple Lanterns, and there's Blue Lanterns. There is the Red Lanterns. The Red Lanterns use rage. And there's the Black Lantern, who uses death. And there is the White Lantern, who's the most powerful lantern of all. So these are some of the Red Lanterns. Now, if you want to know more about the different Lantern Corps, I suggest reading the Sinestro Corps War, Blackest Night, which is one of the greatest DC story arcs ever, Blackest Night and Whitest Night as well, to get an understanding of the Lantern Corps. But all you need to know is the Red Lanterns focus on rage. Guy Gardner used to be a Green Lantern, the worst of the human Green Lanterns. The Green Lanterns the human Green Lanterns from Earth consist of Hal Jordan, John Stewart, Guy Gardner, Kyle Rainier, Simon Baz, and there is a new one whose name just escapes me at the moment. Guy Gardner famously got into an argument with Batman, and Batman took him out with one punch. Fucking hilarious. So they attack Superman as Doomsday, he makes kind of short work of them. Wonder Woman is like, who the fuck are you? And what the fuck are you doing on Earth? She uses the lasso of truth. And Superman decides to head somewhere else because he is a danger to everyone. Okay, now we have Super Doom. So at this point, Steel and Lana Lang, Steel has constructed this spaceship and they're going to try and find Superman. They get attacked by government drones, but they make short work of them. At this point, Superman is just smashing the fuck out of asteroids, trying to kind of get his rage under control. His cousin Kara comes and basically tells him, listen, there's a way that you can control it. You've just got to control your anger. You've got to control your rage like she does as a Red Lantern. And she takes him to a planet that is about to be destroyed. Now, these creatures on this planet once attacked Krypton back in the day. So Superman doesn't have any love for them. But this villain here is planning to destroy the planet. He gave them 10 years to evacuate it. And they are kind of just at the arse end of that evacuation right now. Superman sees this. He and this villain fight. He basically buys time for the aliens to escape. This villain is like, who the fuck are you and why the fuck are you doing this? And ultimately, they are saved. But it's at this point that Steel and Lana Lang discover that there are signals that are being beamed down to Earth, mainly to Smallville. Lois Lane is kind of getting the signals, and it is now happening in Metropolis as well. So what happened in Smallville, where everyone's falling into comas, same thing is happening in Metropolis. Steel is like, fuck, we've got to get back, we've got to find Superman, what do we do? And we find out that there is an invasion fleet coming, led by Cyborg Superman. Okay, Cyborg Superman. Let's do a little aside here. Cyborg Superman was initially Hank Henshaw. He was an astronaut who was pissed off that Superman didn't save him and his wife when their space shuttle was destroyed. He was turned into a cyborg. He first appeared in the Death and Return of Superman, where he was one of the 4 Supermen to kind of take up the mantle after Superman died. Everyone thought that he was a good guy, when in actual fact he was a villain. This is not Hank Henshaw. The New 52 introduced Cyborg Superman as Zor-El, the brother to Jor-El, hence the uncle to Superman, and the father of Supergirl, Kara, who was turned into Cyborg Superman by Brainiac. So now we have the main villain of the story. This is not a Doomsday story. This is a Brainiac story, which, in my opinion, is fucking awesome. Okay. This invasion fleet is coming. They are heading towards the Earth. They try to get word back, but ultimately cannot manage it. Steel tries to fight Cyborg Superman. At the same time, Superman and Doomsday have their little one-on-one in Clark Kent's head. Realize what is going on. Lois Lane is now in Metropolis. You can see that she is not affected by anything and people can't understand why. And then she turns into Brainiac looking thing. The way that she can do this is Brainiac basically has nanobots all through her body, like millions of them, and that's why she kind of changes color and whatnot. Wonder Woman confronts her, realizes that something is very, very wrong. Superman finds Steel. Steel tells him, you've got to go. Brainiac / Lois Lane tries to use Wonder Woman's past against her. Ultimately doesn't work. And then Metallo shows up. Metallo, of course, being in love with Lois Lane, and so is prepared to fight. Cyborg Superman realizes that Superman is kind of coming. At the same time, Metallo is basically beating the shit out of Wonder Woman. But, you know, it's Metallo, it's Wonder Woman. You know it's not really going to work. Lois Lane fucks off. And then Superman confronts Cyborg Superman. Superman in his Doomsday persona. And basically, Clark has given his body over to the Doomsday virus, and they are prepared to fight. Which they do. It's not a bad fight. It doesn't last very long because Superman basically rips Cyborg Superman's arms off and heads back to Earth to stop the invasion fleet. At the same time, in the Justice League satellite, the bunker, they all realize what is going on and they try to formulate a plan of attack. Super Doom has kind of come back to Earth. Steel and Lana Lang have gotten in contact with the JLA, basically letting them know what Brainiac's kind of plan is, and they need to destroy a certain amount of these ships because they're going to set up a pattern around the planet, and then everyone on the planet is going to fall into a coma. Clark and Doomsday kind of have their back and forth. Ultimately, Doomsday kind of wins, and then you see across the planet, heroes are trying to take out all of these motherships. That's Simon Baz as the Green Lantern. We have Hawkman here. Superman comes down and kind of starts to just wreck shit. And the plan appears to be working for the most part. Cyborg lets them know what's happening all over the world. So we have like Green Arrow, Teen Titans, Aquaman, Swamp Thing. Swamp Thing, an incredibly interesting character, in as much that he started out as a scientist who was exposed to chemicals in a swamp and became Swamp Thing. But then Alan Moore in the 80s kind of rewrote the history, and the scientist, the swamp itself was like a sentient, like god of nature, who just took on the persona of the scientist that was killed, which really is a fucking fantastic read. If you can get your hands on Alan Moore's Swamp Thing, really cemented. I mean, Watchmen cemented Alan Moore as a fantastic writer. Swamp Thing just kind of elevated him, in my personal opinion. Cyborg Superman has kind of reformed himself because he's a cyborg. That's what he can do. Lana Lang and Steel there. Doomsday is just smashing shit up. He and Clark get into a bit of a fight in Clark's head. And ultimately, Wonder Woman comes down because Doomsday wants to go into this town, and in doing so, he's inadvertently going to kill a whole bunch of people. But Wonder Woman stops him and says, "Nope, I will kill you if I have to." I'm sorry, my video just got cut off there, as I was saying. Steel confronts Cyborg Superman. Cyborg Superman makes short work of him, but in doing so, drastically damages the ship because Lana Lang flies down to help Steel out. Wonder Woman and Doomsday continue to fight. Lana Lang is going to die if Steel can't do anything, so Steel uses his liquid metal body to encase her in liquid metal and get her to safety. Diana is prepared to kill Superman. At the same time, Batman is trying to work on a way to get the kryptonite particles out of the atmosphere. She is about to kill Superman when, in his mind, the Clark Kent persona takes over. They've realized that they've killed enough of the Brainiac ships to stop them putting the whole world into a coma. But that isn't the main problem. That was a ruse. Cyborg Superman has this gateway, which is bringing through the mothership, Brainiac's mothership. Okay, so Lois Lane as Brainiac. We find out she is trapped in her own mind by Brainiac. She can't escape. And all of the motherships are basically just complete and utter decoys. And the Justice League kind of realize it as well. At the same time, we have the Outsiders. Now, the Outsiders were a team led by Red Hood. You might remember Red Hood being Jason Todd from the Batman graphic novel Under the Red Hood that I reviewed a little while ago. There's also Green Arrow's sidekick and Starfire. Super Doom comes in and kind of helps them out, but the spores are still affecting people. At this point, they have the Phantom King trapped. The plan is to use the Phantom King's ability to somehow get rid of the kryptonite in the atmosphere. So they dimension jump the Phantom King while trying to work out how to get the kryptonite particles to change. That is the Phantom King's kind of main ability. He can change shit into other shit. At this point, we see Martian Manhunter. And Martian Manhunter is kind of under attack. He stops Superman. Superman is kind of grateful for it. We have Ghost Soldier appearing along with Baka, who was the monstrous prince of Subterranea that many people thought was a villain, but Superman recognized as a hero. And so they bring him to Superman so he can tell Superman, listen, you saved me, you can do this, I believe in you. And then he turns into a big monster, and he and Superman go off fighting the Brainiac ships. So Batman is working out how to get rid of the kryptonite. But if that fails, then he's telling them you basically have to take out Superman. Lois Lane, using her telepathic abilities, appears in Superman's head, gives him a little Lois Lane pep talk as he is fighting her as Brainiac, but ultimately she manages to stave off Brainiac. and she can revert to normal. She still has some telepathic abilities, and she tells Superman, listen, you can do this. Stop fucking doubting yourself, you piece of shit. You're fucking Superman. Oh, so you've got a fucking Doomsday virus in your body. You're fucking Superman, dude. Just do your fucking shit. And she tells Metallo, we're going to go help him. Fair enough. Batman works out how to get rid of the kryptonite spores in the atmosphere by basically using the Phantom King's power and sending them to millions of other multiple dimensions, so they are no longer covering the Earth. And with that, Superman can keep the Doomsday virus under control, he can revert to normal, and we can get this shit started, which he fucking does. Lex Luthor is not too happy about it, and they realize that the Brainiac mothership was the intention of Brainiac all along, and the other ships were just fucking decoys. Okay, Last Son. Red Hood and the Outsiders are in Gotham City, and Batman is like, get the fuck out of there. What's happened in Smallville, what's happened in Metropolis, it's going to happen in Gotham. Get people underground, get them to the subway. But it's too late, and all of their minds are assimilated by the mothership, by Brainiac. We have heroes all over the Earth getting assimilated, and they kind of realize, okay, this is what is going on now. Brainiac is putting everyone into comas, and ultimately what's going to happen is when he's taken all of their mental faculties, they're going to fucking die because they just don't have the ability to breathe and eat and stuff on their own. But he wants them alive for some reason, because planes aren't falling out of the sky and things like that. So there's something else going on here. Superman goes back to the Fortress of Solitude, which is psi-shielded. They talk and discuss what needs to be done. And ultimately, he is going to go and fight the mothership. That is the only way. But before he does that, they hatch a rather audacious plan. And that plan is to send the mothership and Earth into the Phantom Zone, because it is a place outside of time, and that way it will buy them time to work out what to do. The plan ultimately ends up failing, sadly enough. So Superman kind of realizes, okay, this is what I'm going to have to do. But by opening the Phantom Zone like that, they've released Mongol and they've released General Zod's right-hand man. Now, those two realize who is ultimately responsible. That is Brainiac. And they're like, fuck that. And they both run back into the Phantom Zone. So that was a little bit of a cop-out. Superman explains his plan a bit to Martian Manhunter. They do a little bit of heroics against all these Brainiac bots. Martian Manhunter says, I will hold them off. You do what you've got to do. Cyborg comes down and says, buddy, I'll fucking hold them off. You guys have to go and do the other stuff. But Cyborg is ultimately assimilated by Brainiac. They are very worried. They haven't heard from Cyborg. So they kind of are hatching this scheme now. And Diana goes back into the Phantom Zone to enlist the help of Mongol. At the same time, Clark has the Doomsday virus under control, but he needs Doomsday for this, so he sets him free. In his mind, of course, like this is happening in his mind. Diana basically says, listen, if you help us, you get Warworld back. At this point in Clark's mind, Doomsday is free, and he ends up just killing the Superman persona. So it is all Doomsday now. We move on to Kara, the Red Lantern. Superman told her to come back to Earth when you can. I'm going to kind of save them after she took him to that planet. But she basically falls to Earth because of the kryptonite in the atmosphere. So this kind of happens before they get rid of all the kryptonite in the atmosphere. She's found by this kid, Michael, in a wheelchair, who nurses her back to health. And she's like, aren't you scared of me because of what Superman's? He's like, no, I saw you fight and save people. There was collateral damage, whatnot. So she kind of explains a bit what's going on. She's worried that his spinal injury, the fact that he's in a wheelchair, was due to the collateral damage that she caused in the fight. And he was like, no, it was a car accident. Don't worry about it. So in their conversation, he lets her know that his parents were in Metropolis when everyone fell into a coma and he can't get a hold of them. And she says, I will go to Metropolis and if I can find your parents, I will. And she thanks him for kind of looking after her. It's a very sweet, very touching series of pages. I thoroughly enjoyed it. She flies above the kryptonite cloud to get recharged, goes down to Metropolis, and tells everyone, hey, I can kind of help. Don't worry about me. And then she goes off looking. In the subway, she finds Michael's parents. They are alive. She manages to get them to safety. And she hurries back and finds Michael and tells him, your parents are fine. They're at the doctor's. Thank you. To which he kisses her. And she kisses him back, and then they realize they're kind of making a scene. I really like this because this iteration of Kara is often at odds with who she is and what she's doing on Earth. And she often feels very lonely and she can't relate to people. So finding this guy who clearly is enamored with her, not scared of her, helped her, and then to discover that his parents are alive and he's so kind of overwhelmed. This is a very sweet moment. I really enjoyed that. But it's short-lived because Brainiac's signal is now taking the consciousness of everyone, including Michael. And Kara sees Cyborg Superman. Okay. At this point, shit is going on all over the world. Doomsday has decided, Superman as Doomsday has decided to go take out the mothership. That is their last hope. Lana Lang uses Lois's telepathic ability to contact Superman. At which point Superman crashes into the mothership. In his mind, he's visited by Perry White. He realizes that this is an illusion created by Brainiac. And we find out exactly what Brainiac is doing. Brainiac believes that it is the people who, the way that we perceive the universe is how the universe is created. So if he can collect enough minds and have them all perceive the universe as he wants it, then he can recreate the universe itself. And so he starts to show Clark all of these things that he can do. He can make steel. He can make Lana Lang happy with steel. He can do a whole lot of things. In doing so, Clark is inadvertently giving Brainiac the power to take over the minds of the heroes and friends. Kara and Cyborg Superman fight. She doesn't actually realize that Cyborg Superman is her father at this point. Again, this is a vision from Brainiac. So Kara will ultimately realize kind of what has happened, but it does not work. He even shows an aging Bruce Wayne and Superman where crime has kind of been eradicated thanks to Superman. Doesn't work. And in the Phantom Zone, Wonder Woman is still trying to enlist the help of Mongol. Doomsday battles Brainiac. He discovers via Lois Brainiac's motives for wanting to do what he did, and that is namely to resurrect his wife and child because he ultimately caused their death. Like every good villain, he believes that he is doing it for a good reason when he is not. They manage to basically get Brainiac, and Superman flies him into a series of black holes, thus taking him as far away from time and space in the DC continuity as humanly possible. And then we get Who Needs Superman? This is very reminiscent of Superman Returns, where Lois Lane writes a very similar article after Superman spends 5 years trying to find the remains of Krypton. But this is by Clark Kent. And this is months later. He has returned after flying halfway across the universe. And he comes back to Earth. He is hit by a kryptonite scan satellite that Bruce Wayne put up. His cousin finds him. They go to the wreckage of the Fortress of Solitude, where he tells his cousin, I'm just going to have to reboot everything and it's going to take 5 months. So just go and do your thing. It'll be fine. He heads back to Smallville to see if he can help, reminiscing about growing up there. And he finds Lana Lang with Steel, who is her new boyfriend, but ultimately her parents both died. She's a little resentful of this, at least he feels so. There is her boyfriend there, which, Clark knows he's Steel, and I think he knows Clark is Superman, but they kind of keep it low-key. He goes to Wayne Manor, and he sits down and has a discussion with Bruce, who basically tells him just chill for a while. And then he writes the article, but ultimately the article pisses off Lois Lane. Lex, on the other hand, is like, I'm starting to like this Clark Kent guy. He's pretty cool. Who needs Superman? Lois Lane is pissed off because, in her opinion, maybe we don't need Superman. Maybe Superman needs us, which is a very interesting and poignant way to kind of think of it. And then we get the counter article that she writes for the Daily Planet. We have Kara now meeting Michael's parents at the hospital. She flies them back to the apartment. But when she gets in there, she finds that Red Hood is in the apartment. Red Hood and her kind of fight. But ultimately what he wants to do is bring her attention to the fact that there are gun runners who have alien technology that she might be interested in. So they team up to take them down. But at the same time, she discovers that Red Hood has something in his system that's giving him superhuman powers. She doesn't know what it is. She doesn't know what he's taking. All that she knows is that it is pretty bad. They take down all the gun runners, and ultimately he basically fucks off with a little bit of a warning. She replaces the window for Michael's parents, but they say, don't worry about it. You're welcome here anytime. And Red Hood is spying on her as she kisses Michael, and they kind of become a couple. Now, the last issue deals with Superman and Wonder Woman. They reunite, kiss, which in the Superman and Wonder Woman comic books, Clark has always been very cagey about letting people know that they're in a relationship, but she's like, I'm sorry, I just couldn't help it, I haven't seen you for so long. And they reminisce about the flower from the Fortress of Solitude that Clark gave her. This happened in one of the issues of the Superman and Wonder Woman comic book. It doesn't use water, it uses oil, cooking oil, but ultimately she has forgotten to give her cooking oil because she was off saving the world, and it's turned into a giant monster. They argue about it, and Superman can't believe that he gave her something with a simple task and she couldn't do it. She realizes that this argument is out of character and knows exactly what's up, so she says, I'm going to go and fix this. Superman traces it to some oil rigs in the ocean, and then he realizes he's got to go off and get some help. Wonder Woman confronts Strife, who has been manipulating them the whole time, and she basically says, cut it the fuck out, and smashes Strife's kind of oracle dish. Superman enlists the help of Swamp Thing, and Swamp Thing realizes that this is from a different planet. Maybe the Green can't communicate with it, but he tries his best and ultimately gets it to calm down. Superman and Wonder Woman kind of reconcile, and everything goes back to normal. And then we have some kind of art. That was Superman Doomed, a Doomsday story. A Brainiac story hidden in a Doomsday story. I really enjoyed this iteration of Doomsday. I thought the characterization was really good. The story itself had great pacing. Nothing too crazy. I'm glad to see Brainiac as like a major villain in a story arc. That is always good. I love that we got to see his motives this time. That's not usually something that happens with Brainiac. All in all, a really great Superman story. Okay, if you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, it helps the channel. Comment, please. It's always great to hear comments from fans. If you want me to review more comic books and graphic novels, let me know what you want. If you want me to do this beast, let me know. Always happy to spend an extraordinary amount of time reading through really long stories and then spending an even longer amount of time talking to you about them. But ultimately, I hope you enjoyed the video. That was Superman Doomed, the New 52. Please, everyone, stay safe. Have a fantastic rest of your day. And for fuck's sake, read a fucking book, people. See you in the next one.